Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio College Basketball Closing Time Show for Thursday, January 7th. Ian Cameron, Conor Mack with you. Hopefully my voice holds up. I did a lot of talking in the Football Frenzy show earlier today, and you can tell my voice is a little gravelly right now. So hopefully I make it for this next hour. But looking forward to it. Thursday college basketball card. It's actually our first Thursday show with the college basketball closing time because now we're going to have pretty good cards on Thursday. A lot more mid-major on Thursday, a lot of Ohio Valley, a lot of Atlantic or Colonial Athletic Association, some Big Ten, some Pac-12, a lot of WCC. That's mostly the conferences you see. Sun Belt, you see all of these conferences usually play on a Thursday night, and that's what we have here tonight. So looking forward to it. Let's start at the top of the rotation, as always. Ohio Valley action with the first two games on the card, Tennessee Tech and Morehead State. We've got the Morehead State laying 4.5 in this game, 133 the total in this one. Morehead State off a pretty good win against Murray State, a really surprising win too in their last game on Saturday, 61-56 on the road, beating the Murray State Racers. So a very, very good win for this Morehead State team, a squad that, they beat Western Kentucky, lost to SIU Edwardsville, lost to Clemson on the road, and then had that win against Murray State. They're playing some better basketball. They've won 4 of their last 6 games. The only losses by 4 and by to Edwardsville, by 15 to Clemson. On the other side of the fence, Tennessee Tech, John Pelfrey's team, has had a terrible time of it this season. Just the one win on the season so far, and that was against Southeast Missouri State. They lost by 8 in their last game against Eastern Illinois. It's a really tough game because I don't want to lay points with Morehead off the big win against Murray. I worry that there's a letdown spot here potentially for them, but they are the team that's in better form. And I don't know if I trust Tennessee Tech to bet them because it could be a little bit of a flat spot for Morehead after the big win against Murray. So for me, it would be take the points, lean to Tennessee Tech, but they're just so bad. I mean, a one-win team. Don't know if I could actually pull the trigger, but that would be my lean here in this one. Conor, any thoughts from you here?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Both teams got a ton of injuries that they're dealing with. I've just been surprised a little bit by Morehead State this year. They played a little bit better than I thought. This one was a pass because I think Morehead State's the right side. At 4, I don't like it so much. So it was a quick one. I'd lean there, but like I said, at 4, I don't love it enough. And I can't – like you taking Tech with 4, maybe. This was a quick one early that I wanted nothing to do with. I've already had enough struggling days. Come on. I had Seton Hall last night. Come on. Creighton shot.
Hey, at least it was not painful. No pain, at least. No pain in that. It was over quickly. Yeah, we knew it was had no shot right away.
Yeah. So a few bad days here. College basketball has been really good though. Other than that, and a game like this, I'm going to stay off early today.
See, my losses were more frustrating as I didn't have – yesterday was probably my worst day in college basketball in over a week. It's been a really, really good run in CBB. Yesterday was not a great day. My losses were the painful variety. My bigger plays, Georgetown and Oklahoma. And Oklahoma keeps teasing you that they're going to come back and make it interesting, and then Baylor just runs away at the end. And then Georgetown, we all saw what happened there. They lead for like 36 minutes of the game. And then they go 1 for 15 down the stretch, and they not only blow the lead, they blow the cover too, getting 4.5, 5 points. Very, very frustrating. What can you do? Sometimes you can have days like that. Next up, Southeast Missouri State, Belmont. We've got Belmont, 14-point home favorites, 145 the total in this game. I like the over a little bit here in this one. Southeast Missouri State leaves a little to be desired on the defensive end of the basketball court. Belmont under Casey Alexander, who essentially brought Rick Byrd. Rick Byrd was the legendary coach here at Belmont, but Casey Alexander coaches a very similar style, faster-paced offense, shoot a lot of threes. Really hasn't been much of a deterrent or difference from the way they played on offense under Rick Byrd. And Southeast Missouri State, like I said, they're a terrible defensive team. I think this could be a good night for the Belmont offense. The Belmont defense at times has been a little bit spotty, not been as good as I thought they would. They've had some games where they've struggled a little bit on that end of the floor. So put it all together, and I bet this game over the total, 144.5 current number. Conor, what about you here? SEMO Belmont.
Yeah, SEMO's problems on defense. Belmont should win here handily, but at 14.5, And you talked about their defensive problems. Now, they can score. That's why I can't take them with this big number. Belmont should win, but I'm not going to lay 14.5 with them. So I passed. I lean the over a little bit at 145 and a half.
All right, we go to the Colonial here. Northeastern taking on Hofstra. We've got the Hofstra Pride 4.5-point home favorites. 139 is the total in this game. Hofstra has always been one of the top teams in this conference. To be honest with you, Northeastern has been as well. These teams have actually met in the championship game of the CAA tournament, I believe, either last year or 2 years ago. So, and two really good coaches. Bill Cohen, of course, for the Northeastern team. He's been here forever. Coaching this team. They're off to a 2-0 start in conference play. Both of those wins against Elon in the home series. Joe Mihalik, of course, away from the team with health reasons. Mike Farrelly has taken over, but playing really good ball. The only loss to St. Bonaventure on the road in conference play. They beat Richmond on the road, an impressive win. Beat William and Mary, swept them, in fact, in head-to-head games, the back-to-back against William and Mary, or I like to call them Bill and his bitch, William and Mary, beating them in back-to-back games. So to me, I like Hofstra here, minus 4.5. I'm riding the hot, and they're a good team. They're in good current form right now. Northeastern's a solid team. They're a good team too, don't get me wrong, but short number at home, Hofstra in good form. I think they get the job done here. We'll lay the points with the Pride here. Connor, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, Pride's been playing really well lately. I just stayed off this one. They haven't been good. They covered their last few at home. They played a lot of games where they just missed covering Hofstra this year. I lean towards the under a little bit, but you're right. Hofstra's been playing well, and I think it's got a little bit at 4.5. I think it's just outside of my range, so I passed because I didn't want Northeastern either. Getting +4, it just wasn't a feel. So, like I said, on some of these games, I just really don't love it. I got to pass early on them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I thought, again, I wouldn't lay more than 5 or 6 in this game with Hofstra, but down around 4. It's kind of like with Richmond last night. I cashed with Richmond against Rhode Island, and I said, I don't want to lay like 6 or 7. And sure enough, what did they win by? Like 7 or 8. So I said they can just squeak out the cover, and that's exactly what happened. I think could get that here, in my opinion, with Hofstra. 6, 7, 8-point win, just do enough to cover this number. We've got Iowa, Maryland 5.5-point home dogs. Iowa 5.5-point road favorites here, 152.5 the total in this game. Maryland certainly been competitive, been scrappy, they've been feisty, no question about that. They've had a little bit of everything. Maryland, a little good, a little bit bad. 1-4 though in conference play. Yet their losses, they're for the most part been pretty competitive. They lose by 3 to Purdue, lose by 8 against Indiana, but led parts of that game. They lose by 80. They really led most of the game against Indiana. And then Indiana went on a big run to close out that game, kind of like the way Butler did against Georgetown last night. Just had a great run down the stretch that turned the game completely in their favor. That's kind of like what happened with Indiana when they played this Maryland team last time out. But you know me about laying points on the road with Iowa. I just don't like doing that. They just don't play enough defense for me. It looks like Maryland's going to get a key cog back in Daryl Morcell to go along with now Dante Scott, Eric Ayala, Hakeem Hart, and Aaron Wiggins. That's certainly going to help them solidify that starting 5 here for Mark Turgeon's team going into this game against Iowa. Again, Iowa's defense is just a come-and-go defense. We saw them on the road against Rutgers give up 75 and only win by 2. That's the thing. I could see them winning this game for sure. Iowa, they are the better team, but win by 6 or more to cover this number, I think that's dicey. I'd lean a little bit to this Terps home underdog here when it comes to this game. What's your thoughts, Connor, with Iowa, Maryland?
Yeah, we talk about how I'm not big on Iowa, on their defense, especially away from home. This one's kind of difficult. I'd still lean Iowa at 5.5, but like you said, I just don't love it. This one was a tricky game. Maryland's been pretty good. Hard to really peg this year. I think they're pretty good, but I can't take them here. I need more points. They get stagnant on offense at times. So I got to pass on this one. I'd still lean Iowa. It comes down to if you can get a 5. I see 5.5s. I lean them a bit here. I think they can pull away late. But as we said, that defense on the road, watch it. So I lean Iowa.
All right, lean to the Iowa Hawkeyes on the road there. Indiana, Wisconsin, as we stay in the Big Ten here. Wisconsin, 8.5, 9-point home favorites, 127.5 the total in this game. Wisconsin certainly was in bounce back mode the last game that they played, and they certainly got the job done against Minnesota, 71-59. They were coming off a disappointing home loss to that aforementioned Maryland team, 70-64. Good bounce back game. Really, I like this team from an inside-out standpoint. They've got Nate Ravers, Demetric Trice on the outside, the perimeter game. They got Brad Davison, Micah Potter, what a great senior big on the inside. Really, really well-balanced team. They got the inside-outside game. Can score both ways. I like teams that just don't rely on three-point shooting, rely on the perimeter, or just rely on paint production. When you've got a combination of both, that makes you a better team. Certainly an excellent defensive team, Wisconsin, 6th in the country in defensive efficiency. I was surprised to see that Indiana is 8th in the country in defensive efficiency. So
Me too.
Archie Miller's team has played pretty good at the defensive end of the basketball court as well. That explains why this total is in the 120s. I think it could stay under even at 128 here in this game. Indiana's offense isn't working really all that well. I know they came back to beat Maryland the other night, but you look at their recent results for Archie Miller's team, 63 points scored, 60 points scored, 67 points scored. Really, other than a bad Penn State defense where they scored 88 and the game went to overtime, really in regulation, they had only scored barely 70 against a bad Penn State defense. Indiana's not really filling up the basket. We're piling up the points. So it has the makings probably of a lower scoring game with two teams playing pretty solid defensively. As far as the side goes, I know Indiana came back to beat Maryland in their last game, 63-55, beat Penn State in overtime. But on the road, they lost by 9 to Illinois. They lost in overtime against Florida State in the two previous true road games they had. So they haven't been able to step up against good competition on the road. For that reason, I lean a little bit to the Wisconsin side, but it's a lot of points to be laying in what figures to be probably a pretty good defensive battle here with these two teams. What's your thoughts, Conor? Badgers and Hoosiers?
Yeah, I think they got this. It's a stretch. Wisconsin's a better team. And with Indiana, I mean, Franklin's out for sure, right? For Indiana.
Let me
That's
just
big for
double
them.
check. Looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah, Franklin's out. So scoring wise, that he's a big, he's I think their second leading scorer. They really lean on him. He gets about 12, 13 a game. I think they're going to have a tough time scoring. I like the under, even at 128. And I think Wisconsin will win by 10, but that's too close. I don't want to, bet that can they win by 12, 15 for sure. But this one could get a little tight, low scoring. But Wisconsin's definitely the better team. And you said, I was surprised a little bit by Indiana, their defense this year, because Archie, they had not been playing defense the last few years there. Not as well as like years and years past. The last under his helm, they haven't played defense real well. But I like the under a little bit, even at 128 right here.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I wouldn't argue with that at all. Yeah, Cincinnati and SMU, we've got the Mustangs, 5.5 point home favorites, 142 the total in this one. SMU falling short against Houston in their last game. They hosted the Houston Cougars. They couldn't get the job done. They lose 74-60 in that game. So a little bit of a setback for the SMU Mustangs. Still a pretty good basketball team. And I know I've got them a little bit ranked ahead of Cincinnati, who have obviously had a tough time of late. John Brannon's team has really struggled. You look at Cincinnati, 0-5 straight up, 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 games coming into tonight. And I've talked about I'm not as impressed with Cincinnati as I have been in years past. Remember, they were this team that you could rely on this team, hang their hat on that defense and that toughness under Mick Cronin. They've lost that a little bit, in my opinion, under John Brannon here, especially this year. Not quite the same defensive team as we've seen in years past. You look at recent games, 83 points allowed to Georgia. I don't know how that happened. They give up 75 to Central Florida, 70 to Tulsa. They aren't great, gifted offensive teams by any stretch. So this defense has declined a lot for the Bearcats. I know they've still got, Keith Williams, Jeremiah Davenport, but beyond that, the scoring, it's hard to trust other guys to step up and fill the void. That was the first loss of the season for SMU, that loss against Houston, 74-60. Prior to that, you could argue that their schedule wasn't great. They beat Temple way down. They beat East Carolina. The best game was Dayton. and they beat them on the road 66-64. But even Dayton's a little bit not quite as good as they were.
They just lost to Florida.
That with the Fordham game exactly the other night. Nevertheless, I think SMU is the better of these two teams. Cincinnati's kind of free falling straight up in ATS right now. I would go with SMU here minus the 5.5. Bounce back game at home, and I don't trust Cincy. What's your thoughts, Connor? SMU, Cincinnati.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. After really digging into this one, you were kind of going there. Who has SMU really played? I still think they're the better team here, but I don't know. They're all 5.5, I see across the board. I lean a little bit Cincy. I don't love it. I think the overs may be in play here. As you said, since he's given up a ton of points, this isn't Mick Cronin. So those were his leftover guys. This is the second year. And these are getting his recruits. They're not the same team defensively.
Yep.
I lean a little bit Cincy and the over here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I like SMU team total over might be a good look. I don't know what Cincinnati will do offensively because they're going up against what should be a pretty motivated, focused SMU team off the loss against Houston. Remember, first loss of the season. I expect them to be chomping at the bit, looking to bounce back. So I think the full game over is probably worth a look too, but I think the SMU team total over might be even better if you can find that out there, because I do think they're going to have some success, and they're a very, very good ball movement team. They get good shots often. They take good shots. Now, they got stifled by Houston on Sunday, but Houston's defense does that to a lot of teams, so there's no shame in that. That's an elite defensive basketball team. Yeah,
real quick, I just want to say Cincinnati, yes, they've been losing like crazy, but the bad loss to Georgia, they lost by 5 to UCF and 4 to Tulsa. I mean, they're in these games, so that's why I slightly lean with them with the points. Just because SMU's schedule, I'd rather be on the points than lay it right here. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, they have been close in a lot of games. There's no doubt, and of course, you're having to lay moderate number with SMU. But like I say, Cincinnati 0-5 straight up ATS slide, a team that looks like they're really on the downward spiral right now. So. It could be close, but I think SMU wins the game, so I don't mind laying the 5.5 with them here. We've got Jacksonville State, Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky 3-point home favorites, 148 the total in this one. I understand the money on Jacksonville. I think State. I mean, really well coached team. Not maybe as good as they've been in years past, but starting to show signs of really getting their season on track a little bit. They play better basketball down as we've gotten into OVC, Ohio Valley. Conference play. Ray Harper is one of my favorite coaches. They're 3-0 in conference play. Now, granted, they haven't beaten anybody. All right, Tennessee Tech twice. They suck. Tennessee Martin, they stink. I mean, they haven't played anybody. I understand that, but they've won those games. They are playing better. They are covering numbers. They only lost by 4 against a solid Florida International team, and the only other loss was Alabama, and no shame in that. Eastern Kentucky, on the other end, look, solid basketball team as well. They've won 3 in a row. Against High Point, Eastern Illinois, and Austin Peay. Really nice road win for them, 80-75 against Austin Peay. Although Austin Peay hasn't been quite as good this season as a lot of us kind of anticipated. And it's going to be a pace battle here, pace wars. Eastern Kentucky, number 1 tempo in the country. They go up and down the court, but Jacksonville State wants to slow it down, wants to play in the half court. And I think they've got the defense to frustrate Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky, they go up and down the court, but they don't always make their shots. They're only 230th in offensive efficiency. So I think the under actually might be the play here from a total standpoint, especially up near 148. I lean Jacksonville State as well, but again, that number's now moved a full 2 points. So if I had gotten +5 or even 4.5, I'm probably betting it at 3. I'm just going to lean that way. Connor, how about you here? Jacksonville State, Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, I've been surprised in Jacksonville State. I took them a few times. I like Eastern Kentucky a little bit here, being at home. I see 3s everywhere, and this might drop. I see 1, 2.5. I'm with Eastern Kentucky. I think they can get it done here. But I've been surprised with Jacksonville State this year. Very surprised how they've been able to beat some of these teams that I thought they would have no shot. They've played really good basketball this year. But I've took Eastern a few times. I had them against Austin Peay the other day. I'm going to ride with them again, lay the short number at home with Eastern Kentucky.
All right, next up, we've got Idaho State and Northern Arizona. Northern Arizona, the Lumberjacks, 2.5 3-point favorites here, 133.5 the total. Idaho State Bengals on the other side. Idaho State, very nice win in their last game against Northern Colorado, 71-56. They haven't played in about a couple of weeks, so a little bit of a layoff prior to this home-and-home series with Northern Arizona. A Northern Arizona team that, look, a lot of ugly results, but a tough schedule, man. I mean, look, Arizona, Colorado State's a good team. They lost to Gonzaga. They faced a pretty good schedule. They beat Idaho the last 2 games, swept that series on the road against the Idaho Vandals. You've got an Idaho State team that hasn't played in a few weeks. Northern Arizona starting to get going in better form. And, they faced a really tough non-conference schedule. I can understand why they're chalk in this game. I can understand why they're favored. I would lean to the home team here in Northern Arizona. What's your thoughts, Connor?
Yeah, this one's kind of a tough one. I just don't want to lay points with Northern Arizona.
That's the question. Are they ready to lay points? Yeah. But I do think they can win.
Yeah, I think they could win too. I'm going to stay off this game, but the only side I'd look to grab, I've been a little bit surprised in Idaho State. I think this one could go either way. So I'd rather take the points than lay it, even at the 2.5. So I'd lean Idaho State.
Yeah, I hear you there. Dicey game in that regard for sure. UNLV, Colorado State, 10-point home favorites, 147 the total. What's funny is that when I was looking at the card last night for today, and I saw UNLV pop up, and then right away my first thought is, when the hell did they play last? You haven't seen UNLV basketball in like forever. And it's true. They haven't played since December the 5th when they beat Kansas State for their only win this season. They were 1-5 straight up. That was their one win. So then I did some digging. I'm like, we got to find out what the situation is. Obviously, a team that's been off now for over a month, because there's been teams that are off for a couple weeks with COVID issues or schedule disruptions, but we're talking over a month now for UNLV since they last played. What's the update? What's the scoop here with what's going on? And it isn't good. The coach had COVID with TJ Otzelberger. Several of the players did. They couldn't go home for the holidays because of it. They couldn't practice. They said they missed 3 weeks of practice because of this. And there's a great quote here from him, if I can find it now, from Otzelberger. Our focus right now, this is great, this one. Some in excess of 3 weeks. I don't know what the number of cases are for all the other teams, but number one thing right now is the health and well-being of the guys in our program. It's been a really challenging several weeks for sure. For a lot of guys, it's been several days off, some in excess of 3 weeks. We're trying to strategize and game plan as best we can. When we get back and practice, the priority will be to make sure they're doing okay mentally. That quote stuck out to me. The quote is not, we're going to make sure we're getting our game back together and ready to play and ready to win basketball games. We're good. When we get back to practice, our focus is that everyone's okay. Not everyone's sick in the head, essentially, and not battling mental issues. Yeah, that's trouble. That's, to me, not sounding like a team that might be ready to go and fire out the gate with all cylinders and play their best basketball coming out of this long extended layoff. And a lot of teams have struggled in that first game off the long layoff. And you know how I feel about Colorado State. I've been waving the Niko Medved pom-poms all year. This is a great head coach. This is a very good basketball team. They split the 2 games back-to-back with San Diego State. And even after coming all the way back to beat San Diego State in the first game and falling behind big time the second time they played them, they still almost came back and made it interesting in that second game. Really good basketball team, Colorado State. I'm liking what I'm seeing from them. Really good balance. They've got a backcourt. They've got a front court size in the low post. I think UNLV's in some trouble here now. It's getting up there, the number, but yeah, this is a one-way game for me. It's home favorite or pass. There's just no way I can trust UNLV, a team that's kind of, to be honest with you, really underachieved early in the season, struggling before this COVID-19 hiatus. So for me, it's Colorado State or pass. Connor, what's your thoughts here? UNLV, Colorado State.
Yeah, UNLV's been out for so long. And then playing at a place where they've never had really any success, especially lately, in Fort Collins, in altitude. We talk how much we like Colorado State. I think it was more that second game against San Diego State, who's really, really good. Moore was out for Colorado State, and that was a big piece, I think. And they fought back. With him, he's back. I think it's going to take UNLV time. A lot of people, I like it first half. I like it full game. I think it's going to take UNLV time. The only thing with UNLV, Bryce Hamilton could get kind of hot, and there could be a little backdoor cover. Again, but they're so up and down shooting and erratic as well. So there's only one way with me here too. It's Colorado State.
Yeah, I mean, UNLV, they just need to get some games under their belt. And that's what I think they're looking for. Just let's get some games under our belt. Let's get everybody back into the routine of practicing and playing every other day. And then maybe we'll improve as things go on. But I don't think they're ready to play their A game right now, given the situation going into this game. Against a good Colorado and a tough opponent to play with how good Colorado State at the start of the season. They've been blowing teams out at home so far this season as well. Just ask Fresno State. Murray State and Eastern Illinois. We've got Murray State, 4-point road favorites, 140.5 the total. I like Murray here, 3.5. It's up to 4, but I like Murray here. Murray is coming off a really bad loss. We talked about it. They shouldn't lose to Morehead State at home. They just shouldn't, because Morehead State's way down from where they've been in the past. That was not a good look for Murray State to lose that game, but it's a bounce-back spot. I think they've shown me enough this season to be able to say, you know what, Murray State, still a pretty good team in this conference. They've got some good quality wins on their schedule so far. They can get back on track. But, losing to Austin Peay, I can live with that. Losing to Belmont like they did, I can live with that. Losing to Morehead State at home, it's tricky. And I think this is a chance where you could see them bounce back here against the Eastern Illinois Panthers, who, they haven't been all that great either. Look at the last several wins. They beat Chicago State, Green Bay, Western Illinois, and Tennessee Tech are the 4 wins this year for Eastern Illinois. Not a good team in the bunch. And Murray State, this is that famous team. This is that famous matchup, Murray State versus Eastern Illinois, where last year Murray State led by like 24 points in the game against Eastern Illinois. And they've talked about that, actually. Coach has, players have from that team last year saying, we want a little bit of payback here, and I think they get it. I like Murray here as the short road favorite. What's your thoughts, Connor?
I stayed off this one, but if I had to play it, I take Eastern Illinois. I know that revenge spot, you just nailed it, but there's something just not right with Murray State this year. I mean, that loss to Morehead, they beat down by Belmont, the Austin Peay loss. I don't want to take them right now just where they're at. Let's see if they can get going. Maybe I'll jump back on the bandwagon, but I don't want to lay 4, even against kind of a not very good Eastern Illinois team. But an Eastern Illinois team that's been scrappy and covered a little bit lately. It'd be the +4 in Eastern Illinois or a pass for me.
All right, Montana State, Northern Colorado. We've got the Bears, Northern Colorado -4, 136.5 the total in this game. I'm a Northern Colorado fan of this team. I'm not betting against them, but are they ready to gain points? Like we say a lot with these teams that cover some numbers as dogs. Are they ready to be laying points now in the favorites role? That's the question. Montana State, Danny Sprinkle, one of my favorite coaching names in college basketball, coaching this Montana State team. I don't know if he'll be sprinkling a few bucks on his team tonight, because their 3 wins are, well, they did beat UNLV. Remember, they shocked everybody beating UNLV their first game of the season. But since then, the 2 wins were Yellowstone Christian and Montana Western. Games against other Division I teams, lost to Pacific by 4, blown out by Washington State, lose by 3 on the road against Portland. So, and especially their road performances, not a whole lot to be enthused about. I like the way Northern Colorado's going. They split the 2 games with Montana, arguably definitely one of the top teams, if not the team to beat here in the Big Sky Conference this year. They have shown still very good defensive team in spite of losing their coach in the offseason who took the Wyoming job. I haven't bet it, but definitely I'm not looking to bet against Northern Colorado right now. So if I had to bet it, it would be Northern Colorado -4. What's your thoughts here, Connor?
Yeah, this is a tough one. The number's kind of right there. I'd be with you on Northern Colorado. Both these teams, I haven't seen a lot out of them. Montana State beat this UNLV team we were talking about right away. So I kind of like – this one was difficult. I'd pass. If I had to, I think it's stretching it with Northern Colorado at 4. I think it's more of a pick 'em, but they've played better as of late, as you said. I lean a little bit on Montana State, but I passed on this one as well.
All right. Next up, we've got Idaho, Southern Utah. Southern Utah, the Thunderbirds, They are
Thunderbirds.
14-point home favorites, 142 the total in this one. I really like the job Todd Simon's doing here with the Southern Utah squad. Pretty solid group. Idaho, to me, just we know they've got issues both ends of the floor. It's been a struggle for the Idaho Vandals. 0-7, winless on the season. It's pretty hard to lose back-to-back games to Northern Arizona. That's exactly what happened with Idaho in their last 2 games. The only thing, and I almost laid these big points with Southern Utah because I think there is a big difference here between the quality of these 2 teams. But the one thing that helped me back is, double digits in these lower mid-major conferences, double-digit favorites. I worry about that. Laying that many points for as impressive as Southern Utah has been this year. And I like this team, especially at the offensive end of the court. They're very, very good in terms of being able to fill it up. They've scored at 70s and 80s in the majority of their games. Let's not forget, Montana beat them in both games that they played the Grizzlies earlier this season. Close games, both of them, but Southern Utah was able to win both of them. They are definitely a contender here in the Big Sky. But again, double-digit favorites in conference play is not necessarily something I'm overly comfortable with. However, there are some instances you can do that, like Baylor worked out okay last night against Oklahoma. There's no way I would endorse the underdog here. So if you had to bet this one, I would only look to Southern Utah -14. They really could win this game by upwards of 20 points. I just don't know if this is the spot where they put the hammer down. If they do, they can cover this number. And they're certainly a lot better than Idaho, but it's reflected into the number. Bottom line, I don't want Idaho. So if I had to, I'd lay the points. Connor, what's your thoughts here with Idaho, Southern Utah?
I'm with you. It's just a lot of points. Southern Utah is the way better team. It's Southern Utah or nothing. Idaho's that bad. But as you talked about, Southern Utah, laying 14, it's just something I just can't do. Not in this spot. I think they can get it done, but I don't want to be holding a ticket, sweating on Southern Utah, getting a bucket or 2 late just to be safe. So it's Southern Utah or nothing. You nailed it on the head, or pass.
All right, next we go to the West Coast Conference here. Portland and San Francisco. The Dons, 17.5-point home favorites, 147 the total. Look, I get it. Portland's no great shakes, but San Francisco is a money burner right now. We got to call it for the way we see it. San Francisco's been just failing to cover numbers as of late. What are they? 5 straight they haven't covered, especially in this big favorite price range at home. They didn't cover against San Diego recently when they were laying big points like this at home. They have not been covering these kind of numbers, San Francisco, in recent games. And this is a lot of points to be laying here, even against Portland. And I know the pilots, Terry Porter, there's rumblings that, his job security is at risk here to keeping his job as the head coach of this Portland Pilots team. And certainly they've had some ugly results. They lose twice to Seattle by double digits. They get blown out by Oregon. But they also beat Oregon State in overtime. I know Oregon State's down, but it's still a Pac-12 team. You beat them. You beat Portland State by double digits at home. You beat Montana State, a solid Grizzlies team, by 3. Question is, can they compete here? I went back and looked. Portland and San Francisco, 2 meetings last year. Portland didn't lose by more than 16 points in either one. And San Francisco is just an overvalued point spread team right now. They're just way overvalued. They're not covering these numbers. And in some instances, they're not coming close to covering these numbers. So this is one of those. I'm holding my nose, and I'm taking the points here with Portland, plus 17.5. It's just too many points in my mind for this overvalued San Francisco team that, let's be honest, their defensive play still comes and goes on this San Francisco squad. So, again, Portland, I think, can hang in there. I lean over the total as well. Portland plays pretty quick tempo-wise. San Francisco can go up and down the floor as well. So I like the over in this game as well. But I like the dog here. Portland getting 17.5. Connor, your thoughts here. Pilots versus Dons.
Yeah, I with you. I can't get there. The Dons, though, are overvalued in the spot, I think. Portland has been so bad. I mean, they've played a few games, like you said, okay. But I've seen Seattle play, and to lose to them by 16, because Seattle can go in stretches. These teams are very hot and cold. Those teams like Seattle, Portland, Portland State. They can have a good game every 3 or 4 games where you're kind of shocked. They could shoot it well. They get a little hot. But you're right. I think they've got the Dons a little value too high here. I'd be on Portland. You're holding your nose. I'm not going to take it, but that's where I'd go. I'd lean a little bit, but I just can't do it here.
I'm going to do it, damn it. I'm going to take Portland here. Again, San
Hell
Francisco has not been good in this kind of price range lately. Tennessee Martin and Tennessee State. Tennessee State, 5.5, 6-point home favorites, mostly 6-point favorites across the board now. 142 the total in this game. I would look to the favorite here, Tennessee State. I know they've had a little bit of an up and down stretch of basketball. Tennessee Martin's dominated, all right, this head-to-head series ATS in recent years, and that does concern me a bit. But to me, Tennessee State should not look past this team. They've had to play a tougher schedule, tough slate of opponents in conference play lately. Tennessee Martin's just not good at either end of the floor. They struggle offensively. They're porous defensively. I think it's a get-right type of game for Tennessee State. I'll look to them -6 here. What's your thoughts, Conor?
Yeah, I look that way too. This one's tough. I think they can cover it. But like you said, Martin's really had their number in the past. But Martin has not been very good. I mean, they just lost to Belmont by 21, Jacksonville State by 10. Yeah, I mean, they got beat 90-43 to Ole Miss. So I'm with you here. Tennessee State or pass.
All right, we both lean in Tennessee State there. All right, on we go now. Next up, we've got Washington, Stanford back to Pac-12 action. Stanford, 10-point favorites, 138 the total. Significant injury concerns for Stanford. They were already shorthanded with Dejon Davis out, and then they lost another key cog to injury in the Oregon State game. And I thought, boy, wow, I thought I was done for laying the 5.5, 6 with Stanford against Oregon State the other day once the injuries kept mounting. I'm like, but no, what a gritty, gutsy effort from Gerard Haas's team. Outstanding to losing guys, key contributors to injury, and still find a way to gradually pull away from Oregon State, win that game by 10, and cover the number as well the other night against, or a Monday afternoon, I should say, against Oregon State. I'll tell you what, I would still only look to lay the points here with Stanford. Washington's that bad. And I know Stanford could again be a little bit short-handed here, but short-handed Stanford could still probably beat up this Washington team. I mean, they are just terrible. It's been a really rough year for Mike Hopkins' team. Kind of disappointing because I think he's a pretty good coach, a good basketball guy. He came from Jim Boeheim's coaching staff in Syracuse to take this job and just hasn't worked out. You've got Quade Green and not a whole lot of support for him on this Washington team. Defensively, it's this zone that they're trying to play has been shredded this year. That's a concern as well. Just a whole bunch of issues. It's been a rough year for the Huskies. Even with Stanford a bit short-handed, that's why I don't love it. It might only be a small play for me. But for me, it's Stanford or pass. I can't endorse Washington. They've had some ugly, hideous results this season, including in conference play. What's your thoughts, C-Mac here, Washington, Stanford?
Yeah, the injuries are kind of a killer with Davis out. They're just not deep, Stanford, you know. This would be more play.
They only play 7 or 8 guys max in the rotation. They don't have a bench to go to.
They don't have anybody with him out as their second leading scorer. It's big. I'd still lean them because Washington's just so bad. It's more of a just fade on them. It's just a lean for me. 10's up there with him out. The way Stanford will win this is with their defense because I've seen them, like you said, really, they can play really good defense and shut teams down and that's what they need to do with Washington. If they can do that, because with the scoring, you know, with these guys out, you know, it might be tough to get to 10, but it's Stanford or pass. I lean with them here.
Yeah, even with that tells you how bad it's been for Washington. Even with
bad.
Stanford, we still got to lean toward laying the points here. USC, Arizona. We've got the Wildcats 4-point favorites here. 138 the total in this one. Pretty interesting game here in the Pac-12. Two teams that have certainly shown glimpses of being pretty good basketball teams here this season. Arizona, I'll give them credit. They're playing some pretty good basketball in recent games under Sean Miller. We know that they were dinged with the sanctions, and they really have trying to regroup from all of that. And, you know, they've been solid. 9-1 start. Only loss was to Stanford by 3 on the road. They've got quality wins, Colorado here in conference play so far this season. They pounded the aforementioned Washington Huskies 80-53. Not their best game against Washington State, 86-82, double overtime, but they survive and get the victory. On the flip side, the USC Trojans had a really tough home loss against Colorado, but bounced back strong and crushed Utah 64-46 on the weekend. It's teams that definitely Evan Mobley, Tajay Eady, Drew Peterson for this USC team leading them. Arizona, you got Baker Jr., Brown Jr., James Akinyo, the transfer from Georgetown's made a nice impact as well on this Arizona Wildcats team this year. It's given them another offensive weapon, another offensive option as well. Should be a good game. Totals come down a bit. Arizona's increased their tempo a little bit. USC, when you look at their pace numbers, not as fast as they were. Remember the Dunk City days when Andy Enfield coached at Florida Gulf Coast? They were extreme tempo up and down the court. They don't quite fly up and down the court like they used to, but they're not totally a snail either. And you've got two teams that offensively have been able to find ways to put the ball in the basket. USC, you look at them, I think they have a chance to have some success offensively here. And after, holding Utah to 46, they're going to face a team that can come after them in a little bit more offensive firepower with Arizona. So if anything, I'll lean a little bit over the total 138. I'm not strong on it, but if I have to throw it, because I'm very, very torn on the side, I don't want to lay it with Arizona, but I don't necessarily love USC here on the road either. But I will lean a little bit over the total. What's your thoughts, Connor? Good one here in the Pac-12.
Yeah, this one's a really good one. That total, I think it go either way. I think the number's right there. I like the Trojans here a little bit at 4. I see 4.5 out there. Maybe you want to wait on this one. I've watched a lot of Arizona. I watched them the other night, the whole game against Washington State. I had Washington State and went to a couple overtimes. I think they're good. They've struggled a little bit at home this year. They haven't covered kind of big numbers, and I've been impressed with SC. I didn't take them on Saturday. And Utah, they blew them out. I think Infield's got it going there in Southern Cal. The Trojans are 7-1 against the spread their last 8 road games. They've been very good on the road, surprisingly. So I'm going to take the 4 points. Yeah, I'll take the 4 points here. It's over that 3.5 that I like, and maybe you could get another half here. This is a late game, so I'm on USC here, getting the 4.5.
All right, Illinois Northwestern, good in-state battle in the Big Ten here. We've got Illinois 6.5 point road favorites in Evanston. The total 147.5, 148 in this game. Northwestern, it's got that sense of they really show up here tonight because they're coming off a couple of bad performances, tough losses, albeit on the road against Iowa and Michigan. No shame in that, obviously. Iowa City is always a tough place to win. Carver Hawkeye Arena there. And then, of course, the last game against Michigan, and we saw what Michigan did last night against Minnesota. There may not be a team that's hotter in the Big Ten right now than Michigan, believe it or not, right now. They're playing great basketball. So can you really fault Northwestern, even though they were ugly losses? Can you really fault Northwestern for losing to 2 very good Big Ten teams on the road? I get the sense they're showing up tonight. I didn't play the game, but from a spot perspective, I can understand why there's some interest in Northwestern. I just think that Illinois is still the superior team. I like this Illinois team a lot. I'm not going to go against them. But from a spot perspective, I can understand why it's circle the wagons time. 2 bad road losses at home. Illinois is going to get Northwestern's. Northwestern's probably going to give their best effort here against Illinois. Question is, will it be enough? But from a spot perspective, I understand why there's some betting market interest here and taking the points with Northwestern. Personally, though, I'm not going to do it. What's your thoughts, Connor? Illinois Northwestern.
Yeah, Illinois is really good. I'm just on the spot here. I'm going to go with Northwestern. I know probably a lot of people are on Illinois. I think they bounce back here at home and play a better game. I want them getting points. This is when we want them. We talked about them laying points, stuff like that. This is when I want to take Northwestern, when they're getting 6.5 at home. I think they're due for a good one. I think Illinois is really good. It's kind of like that Iowa game we talked about. I think Illinois is a bit better on the road. They've showed it, but I'm going to take Northwestern here. I think this one's a scrappy one. I think they can keep it inside 6. And I see a 6.5 at DraftKings. You might want to wait on this one till tip as well. I could see a little money going Illinois' way. Maybe this gets up 6.5, 7. So you might want to wait on it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely that's not a
And
bad
the
pick.
over. I think this one could go over. The last few for Illinois has gone under. But Northwestern plays at, scores a lot. I see this one could maybe get over. This was only the Big Ten one I liked over a little bit, 148.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk you out of that for sure. I'd lean over the total as well in that one. You're right. Big Ten games have been staying under lately, but this one might be able to go over the total a little bit. I like the offensive capability, at least, of both teams. Nevada, San Diego State, as we head back to the Mountain West here, we've got San Diego State 13.5 point home favorites here at Viejas Arena, 137.5 the total in this game. Obviously, for the Nevada Wolfpack, a pretty good basketball team still, but I don't think they're at the same level as they were under the Eric Musselman days. Steve Alford, I don't think has quite the same level of talent on this group that Musselman did. Remember, he had the Martin twins. He had some really, really good players back then on this Nevada team. I don't think they're in that same stratosphere right now, but they played pretty well in conference play so far. Beat Air Force by 17 at home. Lost to Air Force in the rematch 68-66, went on the road and beat New Mexico handily both times, 68-54 and 84-74. But now you're going to have to play San Diego State. And the problem for Nevada is, who's really good that they've played on their schedule. They've played two pretty decent teams, San Francisco and Grand Canyon. They lost by double digits in both of those games. Grand Canyon on the road. San Francisco at home. The other wins were Nebraska, San Diego, Pacific. Nebraska's down. It was a nice win on the road, don't get me wrong, but down Nebraska team in the Big Ten. So there's some question marks here about Nevada. Can they go on the road here against this damn good San Diego State team who clear bounce back spot after blowing the big lead against Colorado State on Monday, and they bounced back with a 13-point win in the rematch against Colorado State. They're laying a big number here. I understand that it's 13.5, not necessarily a bargain, but I don't see enough greatness on that schedule for Nevada. This is by far, I think, the best complete team at both ends of the floor they've played. I don't know if I trust them to step up. Lean to Aztecs, but going to pass on the game. But I don't trust Nevada. I can tell you that. Connor, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't trust it. I want to look every way to take UNR here. I need a few. I need maybe 16. The worry about San Diego State, and I don't want to lay the 13.5, is it's kind of a flat spot after those two emotional games, Colorado State. They're so good at home, but I could see a 20-point win and I could see an 8-point win. So I'm passing here. If it was a few more, maybe 15, a point and a half more, maybe UNR, and I'd still be holding my nose. Hopefully they play well. And I want to see later on how UNR plays as this year goes on, because I don't know how good they are. I don't think they're very good, as you've told in the scores. So I'm going to pass on this one.
Yeah, we appreciate. I'm noticing the kind words in the chat from the comments, and we appreciate it. We're glad you're enjoying the show. You're liking the information, liking the content, and liking the picks. Hopefully, we like the picks at the end of the night, and that they're winners. That's when you want to
after yesterday.
You see them cash, and not see them lose, kind of like they did last night for both of us. But
we were
that's
running
all right.
good, and then
we've been on a great run. Last night was not one of the better nights, but we're looking forward to a pretty solid night tonight on this card. There's a couple of games I like for sure. Hopefully, better results. We've got Washington State and Cal, Pac-12 action here. We've got Washington State now laying points on the road here. Big movement here. Flip of favorites with Washington State now favored by 2.5, 128 the total in this game. First loss of the season for Washington State in their last game against Arizona, 86-82. Isaac Bonton is just a great player. He's not going to get a lot of national attention because he plays at Washington State, but he's a fun guy to watch, can fill it up, can get absolutely red hot from the field. They have played all their games at home, though. So now let's see what they do going on the road for the first time. Unfortunately, the Bears aren't very good. They're 0-4 in Pac-12 play. They lost to Oregon and Oregon State in their last two games. Matt Bradley, who has been their be-all, end-all, leading point producer. Had to be helped off the court with an ankle injury in the first half. That's exactly why the betting markets have flocked toward Washington State in this game, because Bradley's out indefinitely. And that's really the only guy that Cal's been able to consistently contribute for them offensively. They play solid enough defense under Mark Fox, which you'd expect. He's a defensive-minded coach going back to when he was at Georgia. But where's the offense, and where's the scoring going to come from without Bradley for this Cal team? I worry about that. The line's now moved a little bit too much for my liking, but I do lean Washington State, and I do agree with this move. I think it's going to be difficult for Cal to find offense here going up here against this Washington State team after their first loss of the season, and certainly would think they'll want to bounce back. So lean to the road team, but again, the numbers now moved more than sufficiently enough where I'm not going to bet it now with where it is. Connor, what's your thoughts here at Cougars and Bears?
Yeah, I watched a lot of Washington State, just that double OT loss. I think they could have won the game multiple times, against Arizona. Even at 128 with Cal, they played. I think this could be an under. Washington State's played a ton of them. This is my limit. I still like Wazoo at 2.5. That's it. I still think they've got the superior players, shooters especially. Cal, just not very good. They've been scrappy though. But I got to lean Wazoo. I wouldn't go at 3. 2.5 is my line. I still like Wazoo here, -2.5.
All right, leaning toward Washington State as well, -2.5 in this one. There's a couple questionables regarding the question about Washington State Cougars out. Not Cougars out for sure, questionable. Yeah. And unfortunately, Gerald, a lot of these announcements about whether they're in officially, they get made like an hour before tip-off. It's frustrating, but that's exactly what we got to deal with, unfortunately, this year. This injury information is not disseminated in a timely manner, if at all, by some of these coaches. So that's been the frustrating part of handicapping these sports in the COVID era. We've got UCLA and Arizona State. Really good one here in the late night hours in the Pac-12. UCLA 2.5-point road favorites here, 144 the total in this one. I'm not going to trust Arizona State yet in a big game. I've seen this team so many times. They've got a big game against a pretty good team, and they fail to get the job done. But the fact remains with UCLA, the Chris Smith absence injury-wise for them is significant moving forward. Yeah. They're going to miss it terribly. They've still found a way to gut it out with 2 back-to-back home wins against Utah and Colorado. But now you're going on the road. You're laying points now against an Arizona State team that, let's be honest, they've really underachieved. Their only quality wins was Rhode Island. They got blown out by Villanova, blown out by San Diego State on this home floor of theirs in Tempe. They lose somehow at home by 60 or so, by 13 points to UTEP. And I was on UTEP in that game. I went mining for units with the UTEP squad against Arizona State, and it paid off in that game as UTEP not only covers, but wins outright against Arizona State. Haven't played since that game. So they've certainly been able to put all their time, all their energy, all their focus into this game against UCLA. I still would lean UCLA, even with the injury to Smith, even with the close wins at home. It's just Arizona State hasn't stepped up against good competition this year and beaten good competition, and they're off a little bit of a hiatus. So for me, it's a lean only to UCLA. Didn't bet it, but I would play the Bruins here before I go to the Sun Devils side. What's your thoughts, Connor? UCLA, Arizona State.
Yeah, this is a good one, like contrasting, as you talked about. UCLA with Smith out, down the line that's going to hurt them. That's scrappy. Maybe not here. Arizona State, all that time off. I think they've only practiced 3 or 4 times. They do get Bagley back. He's their, other than Remy Martin, probably their second best player. But they just haven't been that, even with both of them in, that great. This is a tough one. I could see either side. I just haven't trusted the Sun Devils. But what about UCLA on the road without Smith? I still think they're a good enough team to get it done. I didn't bet a game on this one. I mean, it's a little bit tough. If UCLA went up, maybe go up to 2.5, maybe I grab the points with Arizona State. But how rusty are they? Maybe look at UCLA first half because of the rust. It's a tough one, dealing with the injuries and then the layoffs and everything that's going on. So a tough one here to to handicap.
Yeah, I could only look UCLA, but again, you're laying 2.5 on the road. They've got a key injury that they got to overcome. They got to do it on the road now, too. Let's not forget that. But then you start to look at the Arizona State situation. 3 weeks off since they last played. Not many practices during that span. The coach, Bobby Hurley, talking about we got to work on our stamina more than focus on winning games. Again, kind of like the UNLV situation a little bit. This guy just wants to make sure their heads are right, never mind winning the basketball game. So, for me, it would be a lean to UCLA. Next up, Oregon, Colorado, another damn good game. And note the start time here, guys. If you're betting this game, Oregon, Colorado, another good one in the Pac-12. It starts in an hour, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time. Good game here. Colorado, 3.5 point home favorites, 142 the total. I want to take Oregon here. I really do, getting points. I like this Oregon team quite a bit. The fact remains they haven't been outside of Eugene, Oregon very much this year. And the times they have, it hasn't exactly gone well for them. So going on the road in a pretty tough environment, it remains to be seen just what kind of basketball performance we're going to get from Dana Altman's team. But still, I like this group overall. They might be the best team in this conference. Look at their performances against Cal and Stanford in the last 2 games. Beating Cal by double digits isn't not something that's going to necessarily impress you. But beating Stanford and just pulling away from a damn good Stanford team like they did, 73-56, really impressive stuff from this Oregon Ducks team. I lean to Oregon plus 3.5. This to me is, these kind of spots worry me. Everybody's piling in on Colorado. They opened Pick'em.
Yeah.
They're up to minus 3.5 now, and I get it. Oregon hasn't played many road games lately, and the road games they lost to Missouri on a neutral court. And they lost they barely beat a bad Washington team in their only true road game this year, 74-71. So I get it. Away from home, can Oregon get it done? But I still think if you match up these two teams, I'll take Dana Altman over Tad Boyle from a coaching standpoint. I'll take Oregon's defense over Colorado's. And that might be enough to keep them in this game. I get it. Concern about Oregon away from Eugene. There's not enough concern for me to want to lay points with Colorado. I haven't bet it, probably won't, but I'm going to lean the other way with Oregon now at plus 3.5. Conor, what's your thoughts here? Good one in the Pac-12 with Oregon, Colorado.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think it's gone. I like it at 3, but I see a lot of 3.5s. I like Colorado, and I like Oregon a lot. Once they hit the road every year, they kind of hit some rough spots. Since Colorado's been in the Pac-12, they haven't won there. Oregon's 0-7. Just kind of a bad spot. But this Oregon team's a little bit different. So it's a tough one. If it goes to 3.5 like it's sitting now, there was 3s earlier. I'm with you maybe. This one's going to be, I think, pretty tight. But I think at altitude, Colorado's got a little bit of advantage. And I think they're a really good team as well. And they're really good at home. Their thing has been the road. It's just been really bad. Their home court's been really good for them. So I'm leaning Colorado here, which it should be a good one. And like you said, just tips off in an hour. So
yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be watching that game in an hour from now. Last game on the main board is BYU Gonzaga, a game we didn't think we were going to have about a week ago, but they scheduled this game for tonight. Santa Clara had to pull out of playing Gonzaga due to COVID-19 issues. Same with Pacific, who were supposed to play BYU tonight. So BYU and Gonzaga said, let's not wait till we're scheduled to play each other. Let's play each other tonight, since both of our opponents had to opt out of our game, BYU and Gonzaga's respective games for tonight. So as a result, we've got an early January gift here to see BYU take on Gonzaga, a great West Coast Conference rivalry. We've got Gonzaga, 17-point home favorites, 163.5 the total. For those of you that argue that Gonzaga might be overvalued now, I'm not going to say they're not, but for me, it's just a question of why go against Gonzaga? Why do it? This is just the best team in the country, arguably. They are outstanding offensively. It's like poetry watching this team offensively execute. It really is. They are unbelievable at the offensive end of the court. They've got ways to beat you inside. They can beat you outside. It's an extremely just a machine and efficient offense. They get the pace to their liking. There's a reason why they're second in the country in offensive efficiency. And I'm not sure I love the style of play BYU employs for them to have success here against Gonzaga, because BYU goes up and down the court too. And teams that want to trade buckets and go up and down the floor run with Gonzaga, they often get run over by Gonzaga. Just ask Iowa when they tried to play that same way head-to-head against Gonzaga. And that game flew over the total, by the way. So, again, BYU to me, I don't think they're going to deviate too much. BYU's not suddenly going to slow things down. They've been an up-tempo team for years. They're going to end up playing Gonzaga style of game, and Gonzaga can just play that style of game 10 times better than BYU can. I'm not laying it with Gonzaga, but there's no way I'm going against Gonzaga. They're just one of those teams this year, unless maybe you get late into the West Coast Conference season and they've locked up number one first place in the regular season title, and they've got very little to play for, and they're playing a bottom feeder, and maybe they're laying 30 points. Then maybe you can bet against them because they're just totally disinterested. But this is BYU. It's a televised game. They're going to be focused. They're going to be wanting to put their best foot forward. And when they're ready to play, I'm not going against Gonzaga, period, end of story. But I do like the over in this game, even in the 160s. It's high. I get it. 163 with this total. But I think Iowa-Gonzaga got into the 170s when it was all said and done. And you're going to get that same kind of game here with these two teams. So even at the high number, I'm going over this total with the Zags and the Cougars. What's your thoughts, Conor? BYU-Gonzaga?
Yeah, it's always, like you said, later on, maybe in the schedule, that it always seems like the second game, sometimes BYU. Last year they lost by 23, and that was a better BYU team and a Zags team that wasn't as good as I think they are now. I mean, Gonzaga's really good. BYU hasn't played since the 23rd, December 23rd. So I know a lot of people, if you like the Zags, maybe first half or full game. I see some people, BYU has played some, they lost by 4 to Boise. They beat Utah. They beat San Diego State. I can see some of these people that are loving the points here with BYU. I don't want to hold my breath, waiting maybe BYU can cover, which they can. Not in this spot. I lean Gonzaga as well. So it's the Zags or nothing.
All right, leaning Gonzaga for Conor as well. That's the main board. Before we get to best bets, the added board. Only a few added board games. One is about to start now. 2 of them, actually. Well, I didn't have much on Mount St. Mary's, St. Francis, New York on that game. Central Connecticut, Bryant. I leaned a little to Bryant and the over, but they were very small bets on Bryant. The total was in the 160s, but Bryant's been an over machine. Their offense is unbelievable, and Central Connecticut plays just as fast tempo-wise as Bryant. So it's kind of like BYU Gonzaga. Both teams are going to run. Even though the total's high, I could see it going over that number. So I had small little bets on Bryant and the over. I didn't play the other one. The 2 games later in added board, both of them in the NEC conference as well. St. Francis, Pennsylvania versus LIU, and Sacred Heart, Merrimack. Nothing on Sacred Heart, Merrimack. Lean a little bit to LIU Brooklyn there. 1.5, 2 against St. Francis, PA. Good St. Francis PA team. LIU Brooklyn didn't really start the season as good as the Blackbirds, but this is usually the time of year where you get LIU Brooklyn ironing out the kinks, putting their better foot forward, playing better ball when we get into conference play. To me, you don't get LIU Brooklyn, laying this cheap of a number at home. So that's the one side or total that I like of the remaining games on the added board. I'm going to look toward LIU Brooklyn. -1.5, -2 against St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Other than that, that's all for the added board for me. Conor, did you touch the added board?
The only one I liked Bryant a little bit, but that game just tipped off, and I didn't get to the window with it, and I didn't like these 3 either. Sacred Heart, I thought about a little bit at +3.5, but on a day like this, I didn't want to touch the added board.
I think the added board are great opportunities, and I just didn't find any outside of LIU today. I thought that was for me to look at. LIU Brooklyn against, they don't call them the Blackbirds anymore. I keep forgetting they changed the name of that to the Sharks, aren't they? They are. They're the LIU Long Island Brooklyn Sharks, I believe now, instead of the
from a blackbird to a shark, huh?
Yeah, I know they changed the name for some reason. They're the LIU Sharks now. Yeah, I'm going to be, and I've done that a bunch this year. Call them the Blackbirds still, but it's going to take a while for me to used to calling them the Sharks for sure. Just like the Washington football team, we're going to screw up every now and then, call them the R-Skins. You know where I'm going with that. But yeah, all right, there we go. That's going to wrap up the show. We're going to get to best bets in a second. Connor, do we have any word from our sponsors today?
Yeah, everyone needs another book. You need multiple books to bet on. Go to mybookie.ag, hit promo code PubSports on debit and credit. You get 50% off, and you get 100% off Bitcoin. So you put 1,000 with Bitcoin, you get 1,000, and on the debit or credit they give you 50% off. So you put $1,000, they give you 500. And check out Wolf Spreads because we got our last bit here with our football. Go to just download the app Wolf Spreads and then hit PubSports Radio Battle Royale on your iPhone. Join it, and you can bet. You get 2K every week. So in this wild card weekend, you got the best games. So you can pick one team. You can pick multiple ones, however you want to do it. And if you win at the end of the week, you get a bunch of PubSports Radio merch. We got hats, shirts, sweatshirts, all that cool shit. So download Wolf Spreads.
All right, there we go. Yes, thanks to everyone in the chat. Everybody really very complimentary of the show. And a reminder, we're here with college basketball Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every week moving forward for the rest of the season, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, Saturdays as well, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, the Saturday edition of the college basketball closing time show. So make sure you join us for that. As far as the rest of the week and weekend, we've got NBA closing time tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Connor, myself, and Ski breaking down the NBA card. Saturday, back-to-back, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, college basketball closing time. And a reminder, our NFL closing time show is moving to Saturday this weekend so we can get you all the analysis of the 6 wildcard games before they begin. Saturday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific instead of Sunday with the NFL closing time show. Ski, Prophet, Connor, Mack, and I will be along with that, getting you ready for super wild card weekend in the NFL. And I know we're all definitely looking forward to that. All right, best bets for this Thursday college basketball card, Connor. What are you going with?
All right, I'll save that one. I'm going to go with a team here in Vegas that's, I think, off a long rest. And I don't know about full game. It's up to 10, but give me Colorado State first half, -5.5. I like it full game, but I think Vegas is rusty coming out. Turnovers, I watched this team play. So Colorado State first half, -5.5.
All right, there we go. Connor liking Colorado State first half, -5 against UNLV. I concur with that. I think it's going to be a tough sledding, I guess you could say, for this UNLV Rebels team. Obviously a long layoff for them since they last played. I'm going to go to BYU Gonzaga. Let's go over that total, 163. BYU Gonzaga over 163. Again, this sets up a lot like Gonzaga, Iowa. Gonzaga's amped up for this game. They just BYU is going to play the style Iowa did, up and down the court. And when you play up and down the floor with Gonzaga, they're just going to torch you at the offensive end of the court. I could see Gonzaga hanging a 90 spot, honestly, in this game against BYU.
I do too.
And you can get 74, 76 from BYU because I think they can get into the mid-70s, Gonzaga into the 90s. It's going to take a lot of points, but you're going to get pace. And I don't think BYU matches up well defensively with this Gonzaga juggernaut, which can shoot it from outside, score from inside, do it both ways. I think we get a lot of points here with BYU Gonzaga. Let's go over 163. Best bet for me, BYU Gonzaga over 163. That'll wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate the kind words and you guys tuning in on a regular basis. We'll be back, Connor and I, with Ski Profit tomorrow, Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, with the NBA closing time show. For Connor, Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. Cash some tickets. We'll be back with you tomorrow right here on Pub Sports Radio.